So welcome to Microsoft Automate. Discover powerful ways to automate repetitive business processes. My name's Andy Nathan. I'm joined today by Bhupendra Singh and Vijay Montani. Guys, say hello.
Hello everyone. Hello, hi everyone. This is Vijay.
So thank you guys. And so they're the real geniuses here behind everything. So they're going to be answering questions as we're going through, and we're with Beyond Key, and we're presenting this from Beyond Internet. Here we go. We're presenting this from Beyond Internet, and Beyond Internet is a division of Beyond Key. We provide enterprise applications and consumer-focused apps as a software developer and IT solutions consulting firm, and a lot of that relates to mobile, AI, machine learning, business intelligence, modern data warehouse, and we also provide extended teams or staff augmentation services. And specifically for Beyond Internet, which is the division that we're going to be talking about today, where we offer Power Platforms, which is what Power Automate is part of, we provide Microsoft 365 service and products, Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, Power Platforms, and Dynamics services. And then the third division is Beyond Voice, which provides voice technology solutions, cognitive services, chatbots, voice transcription, NLP, and behavior analysis. So in terms of Beyond Key itself, we have a team of over 150 strong, and we are growing every month. We're adding new developers, engineers, and other team members. And we've been in business for over 15 years, and we have 200 plus global clients. Specifically for Beyond Internet, since that's what we're going to be talking about today, as we mentioned earlier, we provide Microsoft 365, SharePoint, and Power Platform services. We're recognized globally as one of the top 5 add-in providers on the Microsoft App Source. A lot of our add-ins are things like the employee onboarding add-in, which we covered in last month's webinar, and you can find that on beyondinternet.com. which is the link there at the bottom under the webinar section. We also have other add-ins like the directory, knowledge management, task management, and others. And you can find that all on beyondinternet.com. We work with clients around the world in the nonprofit, healthcare, logistics, finance, automotive, manufacturing, insurance, and retail industries, just to name a few of the major industries that we work with. And we are a Microsoft Gold partner. So as we mentioned, we have over 200 plus global clients that we work with. Here are some of the clients we're proud to be working with and associate with. So I really am excited to talk about Power Automate. Automation is such a cool topic, and we definitely want to get your input on this. So if you do have questions throughout the presentation, feel free to ask. We definitely want to make sure we answer them. What we're going to do is we're going to answer all questions at the end of the webinar. So that way everyone has a chance to hear all the answers, because more than likely if you had this question, 2 or 3 other people had the same question as well. And we just want to make sure everyone gets the same information. So the agenda for today is, first we're going to cover what is Power Automate, just understanding a little bit more about what it is, how it works. And we're going to talk about also then for number 2, the benefits of using Power Automate. Why would you want to use this software? Why would you want to use this service? 3, we're going to talk about the different components of Power Automate, the connectors, the flows, and the templates. 4th, we're going to talk about business application use cases, just understanding how this actually applies to real life business scenarios, and show you some of the work that we've done in the industry to give you a better feel for how you could use it for your own business. 5th, one of the business application use cases, we're going to show you a live applications demo of it and how we actually set this up, and you'll see it step by step to get a feel for how this works. So we're not just talking about what it is, we're going to show you how it works, because that would probably be more helpful in the end. And then the 6th one, we're just going to do question and answers like I mentioned earlier. So before we talk about Power Automate, we need to take a step back and talk about Power Platform. So at the Microsoft Inspire 2019 conference, Satya Nadella said that empowering citizen developers is what the Power Platform has been built for. It's great to see momentum, whether it's on Power BI, Flow, or Power Apps. And what he's talking about with empowering citizen developers is that Microsoft has a new vision. They want to make sure that any business user, any person who goes on their system has the ability to start creating the tools that they need to succeed in their company and to succeed at their job. And to do that, they're trying to make everyone a developer. Now, I'm not going to promise you that there's not going to be any coding involved. This is a low code system, but what the Power Platform does is it helps you set up all the different components to act, automate, and analyze your company. And you could see that here in the graphic on the right. And there's 3 different tools that were initially created for that. Power Apps, Microsoft Flow, which is Power Automate, it's the same tool, and then Power BI. The fourth one, Virtual Agent, helps with chat, and that's a new tool, and it's definitely a great one. We're going to cover that at probably a later time, but that's still a new technology that we're just getting our hands around. So the first 3, we talked about Power Apps in our December webinar, and you could still find that, like I said, on beyondinternet.com. And it's a great way to help you create the tools to start acting on different components of your business. The second part, which we're going to talk about today, is Microsoft Flow automates that system together so you can put everything in one cohesive whole. The third component is Power BI, which helps you analyze the information that you have. We're not going to be covering that as much today, but we are looking to cover that either in next month's or the following month's webinar. So definitely something to keep in mind. So what is Power Automate itself? So we talked about how you have Power Automate, and it's a very important component of the Power Platform. Well, it helps you create a low-code tool that creates automated workflows for internal business processes. So when we talk about using Power Automate, we're not talking about using it for social media. We're not talking about using it for, by the way, sorry if you hear a siren in the back. I think they literally wait until I start a presentation. They don't use automated workflows for using it for social media, for doing sales calls. You're using it for things like invoicing, accounting, CRM systems, reporting, all the things that work inside your business. But the beauty of this is that you could connect over 300 different apps and services using API connectors and RSS URLs. So just to be clear, an API connector, you've probably seen APIs before in your business. For those of you who don't know, an API is a piece of software code that will connect one piece of industry technology to another. And then RSS is more for content creation. So if you have a website that has content and you want to feed it into another site, you could use that. And the great thing is Power Automate will help you connect these different services together. So users can build, deploy, and manage scalable solutions using Power Automate. In addition to that, one of the things that we've noticed is that a lot of people are probably using some of the legacy processes and legacy software. So a good example of this, if you have an accounting program that works on a desktop, what you might be doing is you might be going in every month onto your desktop device to type in your income, your expenses, and just go through the different information that you have here. One of the cool things with Power Automate is it can have something called UI flow. It can automatically do some of this for you, because what it'll do is it creates a little window and it records your keystrokes, your mouse movements. It could do video recordings. It could take this information that you're doing on a regular basis, and if you have to do it and it's repeatable and you have to do it over and over again, it could track what you're doing so it could automate those processes for you. So we've already talked a little bit about this, but let's talk about why then are you going to use Power Automate. The first thing is you're going to use it if you have unorganized systems that first force people to work on mundane and repetitive tasks. I kind of have this vision of The Office when I talk about this. You think about all the things that they do that just don't bring value, and they're low value tasks. If you have a lot of low value tasks that employees are working on, Power Automate can help. So if every month you have an employee who has to fill out different forms and go through an Excel spreadsheet and fill out all that information over and over again, that's a low value task. And while whether it's the lowliest intern or the highest paid CEO, you still want to make sure you get more value from those employees. So the advantage of using Power Automate is that you can automate some of those low value tasks that are repetitive and mundane and give it off to a computer system that can do it all day long and doesn't need to be paid on an hourly or set annual basis. The second challenge is if you have a tedious paper-based data entry system, this can help. And the biggest example that I can think of here is that I worked in the mortgage industry for 6 years. And it's amazing how much that industry has changed over the last 5 to 10 years. It used to be you would go to see a borrower about giving them a loan, and you would have an application, and you would have 30 pages of paper that you'd have to have them fill out. A lot of it in pen and paper, and some of it you could type. And what would happen is then you'd go back and you'd have to fill out that information. You'd have to scan all the information in, then you could email it. Then you could check out their credit. You might have to go back to them and ask them to fill out more information. Well, what a lot of banks have done, like Bank of America, Citi, Chase, Guaranteed Rate, they've started to create easy to share digital forms. So you fill out all that information online. You don't even have to go meet your loan officer. You just go online, you fill out the information, and it all goes straight into their system. So when you want to do underwriting, it automatically is there for you, and it makes the process a lot faster and a lot more convenient. So you don't have to be Bank of America or Citi, though, to do those type of forms. You could do this with Power Automate and some of the systems that we're going to show you. In fact, that application that we're going to talk about, that demo, is going to show you how to create some of those forms for internal use and then how to use that to automate that process. So, and that's another part of it. If you have a complex, repetitive business process, this will make it a lot easier. The workflows that we're going to create will remove those repetitive business processes so you could scale up your business. Again, think about the fact if an employee is doing something over and over again that's mundane and repetitive, they're not benefiting from this. You want to make sure that you're getting the most out of their time. So if you can make sure that you get everything automated, they could spend more time working on the things that matter most to your company. So now that we have a good idea of why, let's talk about the what. Let's talk about what are the different components of it. The first thing that you have to understand with Power Automate are the connectors. So there's internal connectors, which are relevant to Microsoft. They're Microsoft products like Office 365, Dynamics, SharePoint, Azure, Teams. You have OneDrive, and then you also have the different parts of the Power Platform like Power Apps, Power BI. Then you also have external connectors, things like Google Drive, Facebook, Slack, Twitter, MailChimp. You have Trello, Dropbox, and Salesforce. A lot of different tools are available, and you can connect all of them together in different ways. I think I actually looked at it this morning. There are 319 different Power Automate connectors right now, and that list is growing. So once you have these connectors, you need to have a flow to get them from one thing to the other, because what the connectors really do is it connects one piece of information to another. So think about a form. If you fill out a form, and this connector here is actually Microsoft Forms. When someone creates a response to that form, you want it to go into your database. You want it to go, whether it's an Excel spreadsheet, whether it's a SharePoint form, whether you're sending it to your CRM, you want to be able to make sure there's a flow so that form doesn't just sit in someone's inbox. You want it to go into a useful spot so you could use that data and use that information. So in this case, in this flow, when a response is submitted, it gets the response. It takes all the details from those fields and puts it into an Excel table. So the question you're probably having right now is, okay, this is great. You can create a basic flow, but I don't really know what I want to create. What if I have something and I want to, what if I think I could use this, but I don't know how to create this? Or if you're new, you don't know exactly all the different tools that you could do with it. Well, Microsoft came up with the idea for that. And what they did was they created templates to help you. And they have probably hundreds or thousands of different templates. I did not sit there and count them all, so I apologize, but there's a lot of them. And you could see here, this is some of the feature templates that they have. And I'm going to just take this middle one here where it says get a daily digest of the top CNN news. Very simple idea here. If you want to know what's going on CNN, you can get a daily digest of the top CNN news that's going on. So if there was a Democratic primary yesterday or debate yesterday, you could find out what's going on, or the coronavirus. But let's make it more specific to your business. You could take this different template, by the way, and you don't necessarily have to have it for CNN. So if you notice this little icon in the middle, that's an RSS feed. That's getting content from CNN through an RSS feed. Most blogs and news sources have RSS feeds. So if you're working in the healthcare industry and you want to keep up with the latest information on medical advancements, maybe you want to get daily digest of the top Journal of American Medical Association information. So you could go to the JAMA site and maybe take their RSS feed. Or if you're in the financial industry, maybe you're doing something from Wall Street Journal, so you keep up to date on what's going on in the stock industry. So if the stock industry takes a 2,000 point dive on the Dow Jones, which happened this week, you can keep up with that information. So it could vary from case to case, and you have the ability to choose what template you want to use. The final component of this is Power Automate UI flows. So Power Automate UI flows, as I mentioned before, we're not gonna be able to cover this as much as I want because it's just gonna take too much time, is something, if you have a legacy process, if you have something that's a web app or if you have a desktop app, it will actually record the screen around it to see what you're doing and what you're typing. And it can actually track your keyboard typing and uses robotic process automation to then put that information into a Microsoft flow, or I'm sorry, a Microsoft Power Automate flow that could automate the process in the future. So we've talked about all these different ideas, and I'm going to take a pause real quick because I've gone through a lot. I see some people have some hands up. I just want to make sure if I'm missing anything? Is everyone in good shape? Can everyone still hear me before I keep going? Cool. Okay, I saw a hand raised, so I'm going to just keep talking. So I want to talk now about how to use Power Automate in real life business cases. So in this case, what we're going to talk about is the first one is a medical equipment company in California. And this is the use case that we're going to use later on when we actually do the applications demo. I'm just going to give you some background about it now. So the challenge is the company came to us and they have medical equipment that they sell to eye doctors for surgeries. So if someone has glaucoma, they're going to help provide the medical equipment to the doctor to complete the surgery successfully. The challenge that they're having is their email ordering process had too many steps. So the sales representatives, the consultants, the managers, they were all going back and forth with all these emails about the ordering process, and it was getting to be a little bit much. Well, as you can imagine, if you're doing surgery, you want to just make sure you get the equipment when you need it, as you need it. So the solution that we helped them with is we integrated Microsoft Forms and SharePoint. We created two different forms for them. One was so that the medical representatives could get faster approval from the managers. Then the second was for the consultants, after they were approved, to fill out the rest of the order so they could get everything approved. By doing this, we integrated their ordering and processing systems, and we sped up their sales process, which was beneficial for both sides because the consultants, in this case, consultants, by the way, I'm talking about doctors' offices, medical facilities. So it might be the doctor talking as a consultant, or it might be their office manager. It might be their nurse. It might be their physician assistant. They needed to make sure they got their equipment right away. So here's an example of what the flow looked like for the company. And I'll go back to this when we actually do the demo, so you could compare and contrast what this looks like. But very simple. The medical representative would talk to the consultant. And so let's say the doctor was filling out something because someone had a glaucoma surgery. So they filled out a form going through the details of the surgery. And once they filled out this Microsoft form, it would automatically send a trigger email to their area sales manager. Now, at the same time it was sending out a trigger email to the area sales manager, it shared the information that the medical representative sent in the form to their SharePoint list. So automatically, no matter what happens, all of this data now goes into their SharePoint list. So everyone in the company can now access it just in case they need it for later. So if this client comes back to them a year later and said, hey, we talked about this, they could go back to the SharePoint list and say, oh, here's the information. I see this person worked on it. Here's what they talked about. So at this point, either the area sales manager rejects the process because they don't believe that we either have the product, they don't want to provide the product to the consultant, whatever their reason is, they have to provide a reason, but they reject it, it ends. Assuming they accept it, a second trigger, a second flow is created. And when the second flow is created, it sends it to the external consultant. The external consultant, the doctor, the physician's office, will then fill out another form. And in this form, they're going to put all their order information and why they need the information. And it's going to go back into SharePoint so you can begin the ordering process. So it all works together so you can complete the ordering process a lot faster than you were able to do it before. The second use case that we're going to talk about is for the attendance system workflow in Australia. Now, if anyone's been on some of our previous webinars, you probably remember some of the images from this. This is a Power App that we created in Australia. And we talked about this in our December webinar. And I just want to bring it up, the fact that we talked about Power Apps, and we mentioned at that time that we used Power Automate, but we didn't really go into that side of it. So now we're going to talk more about Power Automate and not talk about as much of the Power App. So in this case, this is a nonprofit. They needed to track the different homeless families and children with safety and wellness. So as you can imagine, it's a very transient community. I worked in a lot of community kitchens over the years, and I could tell you, working in those environments, you have people who come in and you will never see them again, or it's very hard to find them because they don't have a home. So they move around a lot. Well, this nonprofit needed to be able to track these families to make sure they were okay, to make sure their kids were okay. The solution they came up with was a Power Apps check-in, check-out mobile attendance app. And this connected the data to a SharePoint list. To connect everything together, we used Power Automate. The benefits here is that the attendance app provided more accurate family data, and the facility managers who are in one central location were able to automatically access information faculty members added at different locations around Australia. So keep in mind, they didn't just have one location. This is a nonprofit that had multiple locations doing multiple programs at once. So having information from multiple faculty members filling out this information gave them a broader base of knowledge. So the workflow for this works kind of in a loop. So, and we'll definitely remember there will be a recording of this afterwards. So if you cannot follow everything right now, you can definitely come back to the video later and take a look at this. But what would happen is the faculty member would use the Power App, the check-in, check-out system, to get the program and attendee name information. They would check in every attendee to the event. What would happen at this point is, you could see here, there's a Power Automate logo here. It would automatically capture the information, capture the date and time, and send it to a SharePoint list. When they were finished with the event, they would also check out all of the program and they would check out all the attendees again. What this would do, it would send additional information from the Power App to the SharePoint list. Now remember, they're doing this on a mobile phone, by the way. So on a mobile phone, they're getting, hey, John came to our, our baseball game. And at the baseball game, John brought his son, John Jr. It all goes into the SharePoint list. When all the attendees are done, the faculty member could then put it all into a information on Power Apps, and it opens up a form that then they could fill out that gets stored into SharePoint lists, which generates a report which gets emailed to a manager. It all seems like a lot until you realize most of the stuff I just mentioned here is automated. So there are some steps that need to happen from the faculty members, but if you look here, the faculty members need to do 2 or 3 steps here. They need to check them in, check them out, and then fill out the form to complete everything. And then everything gets sent over to the manager. That's it. Out of all these steps, 3 of them are taken by humans. The third and final use case that we want to talk about is for Microsoft Global Payroll. The challenge here is that Microsoft wanted to automate their payroll requests. So what was, their off-cycle payroll requests. So think about a regular payroll cycle. Let's say you get paid on the 1st and the 15th. It's easier to automate that because it's on a repeatable system. But off-cycle requests take a little bit more time. However, people asking for this information generally have a very good reason for it, and there might be a more immediate need. So you want to make sure that you take care of those off-cycle payroll requests. So now keep in mind, this is Microsoft using their own product, by the way. This is not us creating this for them. This is Microsoft who actually did this for their own human resource department. What they did was, because these requests were coming in different formats from around the globe, they used Power Automate to create a unified off-cycle payroll request form. That way their delivery managers around the globe would follow the same process. Now, this sounds really basic when you think about it initially, but the power behind this is so amazing. So think about simplifying and automating a process for payroll. So let me give you an example. If Steve works at Microsoft and he goes to a conference and he buys some steaks for dinner one night, and do we pay him now? Do we pay him later? Maybe he was doing it for sales. Maybe it cost him a little bit more and he needs some additional money. He might need this because he's going on another sales junket the following week with other clients, and he might need to be reimbursed faster. Well, by automating this process, you're making sure that he gets his money faster. That keeps him happy. You want to keep your salespeople happy, right? If so, what this does is it makes sure that people are empowered to use the system more often. Because if some people might be intimidated if they don't know how to fill out a form or they don't know how to move forward. We've all been in that scenario where we're dealing with a large bureaucracy and we don't know what steps to take. And people are like, well, you don't know what to do? And you're like, no, I've never done it before. This simplifies that and made it a lot easier. It also eliminates the errors that could happen along the way if you have a different process every time. So the workflow went like this. The requester, in this case, we'll use Steve. Remember, he's getting some money back for a conference he went to. He bought some steaks for some clients so he could get some more business for Microsoft. He sends a request through Power Automate to his delivery manager. Delivery manager says, no, you're not supposed to spend $100 per steak. You should have gotten the crab for $50. I don't know, I'm just making this up. We're going to reject it. Or on the positive side, they could accept that. And they said, okay, great. Well, you got some new clients. Of course, we'll accept this. This is a sales expense. They accept it, put it in using Power Apps and Power Automate. They approve it through the Power Apps program. It automatically gets sent to a process owner. The process owner then sends it to payroll group and sends it to a service director at the same time. That then goes to the payroll group who pays them. Once they paid, they archive the request and it goes into SharePoint where that information is databased so they could use it for tax purposes or whatever else they need to use it for in the future when they're looking through expenses. But let's go back here. This seems like a lot of steps. It seems very confusing, but when you automate it, realistically what you're doing is there's 4 different points here, or 5 different points where there are automation that sends it on to the next step. And because of the fact it's automated, you don't have to think, well, who gets it next? What do I do? It's automated. Once you fill out this form, it automatically goes to the next person who automatically sends it to the next person, on and on and on until you get paid, which means you get paid faster and there's less errors and there's less checking up that you have to do in the process. Great. Now that we're done with the presentation, I just want to go through and show you how this actually works. All right. We've gone through all the different components, why you need it, what it is, and let's just talk about how we do this. Let's go through it. So the first thing you're going to see here is once you're starting up with Power Automate, you're going to find it under Office 365. And Power Automate is part of specific enterprise plans, but you could also get it a la carte if you need it as well. So it is check to see, make sure it's in your plan so to make sure you could access it. The next thing is once you go to Power Automate, you're going to open it up into a new tab. And when you do that, you'll see a number of things here on the left-hand side for the menu. The four that I want you to focus on are My Flows, Create, Templates, and Connections. So as you can see here, we have a few flows that we're going to go through with you, but I want to just be very brief with you and just go through connectors real quick. Again, we talked about this. These are the different services. There are 319 of them, things like SharePoint, Outlook, OneDrive, Twitter, Dropbox, Dynamics 365, on and on and on. And these are the different connectors, the different services that work on Power Automate. So the next step here is you're going to take a look at flows. Now you can create your own flow here, and you can see a number of different options for the different types of flows that you could create. And I also want to point out, you can see here UI flows preview. This is if you want to use UI flows. We're not going to talk about this today, but this is good if you have a legacy process that you want to then record online to turn into a flow. In addition to that, since I haven't created any flows on this account directly, you can see that there are a number of templates that have been created. One of the templates is the CNN one that I mentioned earlier. So you could add a different flow here. Now, the great thing about flows is that you don't even have to create your own flow. You could use flows that other people on your team created as well. So the two flows that we want to focus on today are this manager approval, and when a new response is submitted, update your SCR list. Now, just to go back here for a second, we talked about the medical equipment company earlier. And with the medical equipment company, we mentioned that we had created two different forms and two different flows for them. And that's what we're going to go through here in this demonstration. So the flows that we're going to go through are, the first one here is when a new response is submitted, update your SCR list. Now, SCR stands for Surgical Consultation Request. This is a form we created on Microsoft Forms, and all this information will then go into this SharePoint site list. So going back to the first one, when a new response is submitted on the form, and we'll actually fill out a form in a minute just to show you how it works. When you fill out this form, all the details from all the different fields get listed on that form, and it gets sent straight over into a SharePoint list that we direct it to. And this will apply to each one. And then once this happens, by the way, it will also send an email out to the appropriate people letting them know that the information is now in the SharePoint list. So that's the first flow. The second flow is when that SharePoint items are added to the SharePoint list, it will then stand and wait for an approval from a manager. And you can see here, the manager will get an email with all this information, and it will ask them, do you approve or do you reject? So just to go back to our little use case here, you could see in the workflow, a medical representative fills out the form. It sends an email trigger to the area manager. We're not going to reject it in this case because we want it to continue on throughout the entire flow. Otherwise, you won't be able to see it. But either way, once this form is created, it will have already stored information in the SharePoint list. So now the second flow will then be able to help create the manager approval, which will then send the flow to the external consultant, who will then fill out another form, which I'll show you later, and that'll fill out more information in the same SharePoint list that we just showed you. So with this in mind, you can see the flow is here. There's also the condition down here, which says yes or no if the flow is approved, and it sends emails out to the correct people, whether or not it is approved. I'm going to fill this out. So what am I going to fill out? I'm going to fill out Dr. Reich. Let me go back. I'm going to fill out an employee request form. And so this is the medical representative from the company, Bhupendra Singh. And Bhupendra is working with a doctor, Dr. Riker. And by the way, I am the manager in this case. This is not the manager at the physician's office. This is who is the manager of Bhupendra. So I'm the person here. So now you have the three main people in this surgical consultation request form. There's a fourth below in the consultant. Now the consultant can be the same as the physician, but generally it's different. Think about like an office manager working for Dr. Riker, or a physician's assistant, or a nurse, someone who might work with them, who might work on getting these equipment to the doctor for the surgery. Now the email here will be Dr. Riker at Fake Starfleet Medical Facility.com. And the phone number, we're just gonna add this. This is all gonna be for Dr. Riker. Is gonna be 312-123-4567. And 12345, that's the same number as I have on my license plate. Oh, or on my luggage. That was a really bad joke. I hope no one got it. Okay, so the practice name is Enterprise Medical Facility. I'm changing it. And Dr. Riker has requested this information for a surgery on February 28th. The lot number is 1701, and this is for the right eye for a male who is receiving a surgery. What's the issue? Did not watch enough TNG, which is the next generation. Who's the consultant? Like I said, the consultant works for the physician. In an ironic twist of fate, the consultant happens to have the same name as Bhupendra. I can't believe it, but he did. So what we're going to do is we're going to send an email to the physician's assistant who's working with Bhupendra. And in here, we'll just click beyondbhupendra@gmail.com. And I already have this open so you can see it later. I'm going to click save. The moment I click save, I go to my site list. And what you're going to see, like magic, coming up in the night, Dr. Riker has been added from the Enterprise Medical Facility. The date of request for him is February 26th at 2:28 p.m. And you can see all the information that we filled out for the doctor to start up the request. The only thing that's missing, when you just hear that beep, by the way, that's an important beep. The only thing that's missing is all this information here and the approval. So let's fix the first item. Let's get the approval done. We just got an email. Remember, I'm the manager. This is my manager email, whether or not I should approve or reject this consultation. Since I am a generous soul, I will approve it. Whoop. So I could go in here, reason, because it is good TNG. Submit. And it'll automatically approve from there. By the way, you could click on approve without hitting the comments, and it'll open up into a new file sometimes as well, or a new tab also. So just keep that in mind. But right now, we're approved. We are golden. Look at that. It's approved by manager. So what happens is once it's approved by the manager, oh, look at that. It goes to the consultant, the doctor, the medical firm. And you could see here, all the information is right here for the consultation request. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the case ID, because you need to know that the case ID is for this. And then I'm going to fill out the second form. It says click here and fill form. Now remember, this is an outside party, a doctor's office, who's generally going to be filling this out. In this case, they're going to fill out the case ID, the date of consultation. We're going to say February 28th. Description of issue, not enough TNG. And what's the consultant recommendation? More TNG. Okay, for some reason, this form doesn't work. There we go. More TNG. Okay, and what's the value? How much time and hours did the representative spend with them? We're going to say 4. For some reason, stuff started auto-rotating. I accidentally did that. I don't know how. I'm going to click submit. Now that I click submit, I'm going to go back to the site, and you're going to see here in about 10 seconds, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Oh, there we go. I was 3 seconds off. It's awesome. We now have all the information here for Dr. Riker, the order is complete. We can now send out the medical equipment that we need to send out to Dr. Riker to finish the surgery. That's the ordering process. That simple. It seems like there's a lot because you look at this, but in reality, it's a lot easier than you would expect. So with that, I'm going to skip ahead and just say, I know that you probably still have questions after watching this. There's no way we could go through every single step and every single automation in 1 hour. It's just not possible. So if you still have questions, what I encourage you to do is to schedule a free 1 hour consultation with our team. At that time, if you want, we can create a free proof of concept development done for you, and we'll show you how Power Automate can help your business. All you need to do is contact us at contact@beyondinternet.com. With that said, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll definitely be back in March. Join us for our Power BI webinar. We don't have the exact topic, but we'll tell you more when we know more. We're just getting all our I's dotted and our T's crossed, and we look forward to talking to you more about it. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and start automating your business processes. This is Andy Nathan with Beyond Internet. I'm joined here today by Bhupendra Singh and Vijay Montani. Have a great day and a better week.